How's it going, guys? This is Rio Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. Summer is coming close, and I have to admit I was wrong with my previous video, which I stated that we are in the rainy season. It appears, from looking from the weather channel, that it got pushed 1 week later. So I'm guessing that from this week on, it's going to be the rainy season, and it's gonna suck pretty bad for me. So anyways, this sort of leads into this video where I'll be shooting with Fujifilms, like another film stock by Fuji, the Superia 400. I'm guessing the official name is Superia Premium 400, and I'm not sure if this is exactly the same as the X-Trans or something that I keep seeing on Flickr. Might be an old stock or something, but I would like to say that this is, if I'm right, the king of the hills in terms of 35mm ISO 400 rating, like film aimed at for the consumers. And for the professional lineup, they do have the 400H, but unfortunately that got discontinued. So I'm guessing that the sheer majority of people are going to be shooting with this type of film stock. And because you guys know I'm not a professional 35mm film shooter, so I can't say much, can't give that much advices. But was like super curious about this film stock because previously I shot with the Fujicolor 100, which was amazing. So I have high expectation for this film to like produce really nice results. This time around, I went to sort of like a location called Mogusaen. This is actually a remote location on the Keio Line. Damn, I love the Keio Line because I live on this line. It's like the next stop after a station called Seiseki Sakuragaoka. This is a small advice for people traveling in Tokyo, mostly the ways of like transportation, and not the metro, but more like the train that like basically ride like outside. There are like trains called like semi-express and express and local. Basically a semi-express stops at the major like stations, and the local basically stops on every station. So in my case, this Mogusaen like station is a small station, so none of the semi-express like stopped at the station. So you basically have to like get off one stop beforehand and then transfer to a local like train. So that's a small advice. This station or location, the station called Mogusaen, is actually super famous for its small garden of hydrangea. But in the beginning part of the video, yes, you guessed it, I thought it was the rainy season, but it wasn't yet. So I mean, it wasn't blooming 100%. The flowers were blooming like 50-60%, and honestly it felt like a bitch slap. Wow, I got a bitch slap from Superia 400. I got screwed over. Another thing to mention, this area in particular is on a hill, and not on like a typical small hill, but it's like on a 45-degree like hill. And you basically, if you're into like hiking, if you like outdoors, if you like to exercise various parts of your muscles, I mean, it's a great location if you're into that. But for a typical average man like me, this was actually one of the heartbreaking times in my life because it was literally like 45-degree angle, and you keep walking up the hill for like, I don't know, 500 to like 1 kilometer or so. It takes roughly 20-30 minutes to get to this location, and it was like super exhausting. And during the season, it's really hot, humid, 30 degrees, 31 degrees right now Celsius in Tokyo right now, and it's like lots of like humidity, and it feels like sweaty. And yeah. Another thing to sort of mention is that this is not a public garden, it's a private garden, meaning that there is an entrance fee, and there are specific like botanical gardens, Japanese gardens, that you basically have to pay a fee. Well, a great example would be Shinjuku Gyoen, which I think they charge like 500 yen, $5 for the entrance fee. Mogusaen's like similar to that. You pay like a $3, roughly 300 yen for the entrance fee, and because of this pandemic, there was like no one there, so you just drop in the change and just get a pamphlet, and which has the diagram of the botanical garden of itself written on, and just enjoy the view. Okay, This time specifically, I did not bring my motor drive with my Nikon F3 because I've actually came here before and experienced the terror of like climbing the 45-degree incline. Actually, it's like a painstaking like hill, so basically I did not want to lug around the motor drive. I took that off, just a bare Nikon F3, and as always, the Fuji Superia 400. Let's get going to Mogusaen at Keio Line. A couple of things I realized after shooting with this film stock. One is the ISO rating. Obvious, it's like compared to the film stock I previously shot, which was a Fujicolor 100 rated at 100. This one in particular is rated at 400, which means it's like 2 stops brighter than the ISO 100 film that I previously shot, which means that you basically have a longer time period where you can basically shoot with this film. And in addition to that, because it is brighter, you can actually shoot out later hours. Like if it's like summertime, you can basically probably get away with shooting it until like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And from like 6 or so, you need to switch to like an ISO 800 film stock. So ISO 400, a lot of people say it's like one of the most versatile like film stocks because of the amount of time that you can cover. You can like cover from the morning to like 4 o'clock and get away with it. Well, if you shoot with an ISO 100 film, you're kind of limiting yourself. You can't like shoot super early in the morning where there's not much light. Number two that I realized after shooting with this film, and because I only shot with this film stock just once, just one roll, I can't say like I can't do an over like a 100% like review of this film because I never shot like portraits with it, so I can't say much. But looking at the colors, it acts rather similar to the Fujicolor 100. Like initially when I had it, like post-process, when I had it scanned in-house, the reds looked really apparent, so I basically had to decrease the red, add the green, a little bit of green and cyan to like balance it out to give a neutral look to it. And in my case, in this scenario, I basically overexposed it by one stop. And the reason why I did this is because I rather like the sort of like sort of like wash feeling, sort of like not a like super punchy type of photos, like high contrast punchy type of photos. I'm not into those types of photos, but in one shot in particular, as a test, I sort of like tried to shoot like on like directly on exposure, so without overexposing, I took a shot. And from looking at that photo, it actually, if you want that extra punchiness or extra contrast, just shoot at box like speed, the ISO 400 instead of 200. If you shoot at 200, it's gonna be overwash. If you shoot at 400 at box speed, it's gonna give enough like punchiness, contrast, and the shadows look really nice at the same time. So that's something I realized when shooting with this film stock. Okay, so another thing that I need to mention, which is not related to this film stock, it's more like how I edit my images, is that I actually do not like the 35mm film format. And I know, like the 35mm and the film that I typically shoot with, the 6:9, are basically the same aspect ratio, but in my mind, the 35mm like film stock itself, to me, it looks really, it's hard to say, it looks like really, because of the aspect ratio of 2:3, it looks really rectangular, you know what I'm saying? And to me, it's hard to compose a 2:3 image, especially with a 35mm, because you're like missing out on the top end. And if you shoot with a 6:7 medium format camera and a 6:5 format camera, you know what I'm talking about. It feels really balanced out because it's not too long, it's not too wide. While the 35, it feels really wide. So this time around, I basically sort of cut off the edges, made a 3:2 aspect ratio, sort of cropped it in to give sort of like a stable look to my images. Don't know if that's the answer, but I actually like this sort of cropped out version. After like shooting and post-processing, I just like the feel of having like a not too wide look to my images. And yeah, and there are people out there who say that you should not edit your photos, post-process it is a taboo, but I'm the opposite of that. It's important to sort of post-process your images, because on every scan it's gonna look rather a little bit different, and you basically have to like make a little bit of edits to make all your images look similar in terms of color, exposure, and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I realized after shooting with this film stock. All in all, like after shooting with the Superia 400, it was a great experience, shooting with this like film stock. And you might be asking, will I be shooting more with this film stock? I would say no, because if you see my previous video, the Fujicolor 100, I actually like that film stock more than the Superia 400. And this really boils down to your personal like preferences of what you like, what you don't like. And the Superia, I forgot to mention that the Superia Premium 400 is on the expensive side. It's like 1,300 yen or so for the 36 exposure, and for the 27 exposure, it's like 1,000 yen or so. So it's really pricey compared to other alternatives such as Kodak's, like offering a color plus gold, Fujicolor 100 that I previously shot. And although 35mm is not my main like film camera, I would rather pick up the Fujicolor 100, honestly. But there are those moments where you don't know what's gonna happen, and 400 is reassuring in most cases than an ISO 100 film. So this actually, there is a purpose for this film stock to exist, and there's also a reason why the Fujicolor 100 exists. So you can't basically test both of them if you have the opportunity and time, and just find the best film stock that you love to shoot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the Superia 400, please leave in the comments below. I'm happy to reply. So we'll see you next time. Peace.